Hi everybody, welcome back. My name is Sue and this is From Small Things, and I'm a scrappy quilter living in Southeast Pennsylvania. And so I'm going to catch you up on everything that I've been working on this week. But first of all, I just want to mention the weather a little bit. We had a big storm come through, and I think our autumn leaves were at their peak. Really brilliant golds, some reds, oranges. And so after the storm came through, that knocked down a good deal of leaves. And now today it's very windy outside, and that's going to bring a lot of leaves down. So in a matter of just a few days, we went from like peak autumn color to a lot of bare trees. They do look pretty though when the leaves are swirling all over the ground in little circles and stuff. I think it looks really pretty. But it's getting chilly, and I'm thinking about turning the heat on in my house. I haven't turned mine on yet. I usually try and wait until November to do that. It's not a hard and fast rule, but I've been lucky so far. It's holding steady for now. Our daytime is still, this week I think was all in the 50s, like mid to upper 50s, but we had some before where it was still in the lower 60s. And when the sunshine comes in, it's still pretty comfortable. But yeah, any day now I'm gonna have to turn my heat on. But it's a good baking season too, and which I've been doing some baking. And it's good quilting season. I used to tell people when September rolled around that, yay, it's quilting season, because, people would say, well, what does that mean? I didn't know there was a season for quilting. And there isn't really. That's just how I think of it, because the summers are so hot that I don't tend to get as much done in summer, especially when I was still working. My summers were very busy, and I was so exhausted that I kind of counted that as my downtime in quilting. I still did things. I do things all year long, but it just slows down a lot. But then when September comes and it gets a little cooler, then I ramp up again with my projects and everything. And so then all through winter and then into, I'll say, June, I'm very busy. So I don't, like I said, I don't take time off specifically. It's just that summer month period is when I really slow down. So this is my quilting season, and I am very excited about everything I have going on. So let's jump right into it. Okay, so let me share this with you. I've shared this before, and you'll see this again. This is what I call a sometimes project. This is meaning that I work on it just sometimes. This is not something that I'm going to start at, the beginning and then follow it all the way through to the end, because it is very time consuming, but I love doing it. It is an embroidery project, and it's all in blues, and Pam got this for me for my birthday. She bought this kit for me. And I actually don't have the paperwork up here right now, but it's a Jack Dempsey kit. And I don't know what the number is. I know I've said it before in another video where I've shared this. So this is what one block looks like finished. There's a light blue and there's a dark blue. And so that one was finished. That's I keep that with me now because that's my template, so I know where the colors go. And this is what I finished this week. This is not, this block is not finished yet, but this is what I did this week. So I don't have a lot more to go on here until this one is finished. But it's nice just to pick up a project like this every once in a while and work on it, because it's just a different kind of stitching. And so it keeps me interested. It keeps me from, I don't want to say getting bored, because I don't really get bored with quilting, but I do get re-excited when I pick these up and work on them again. So that actually took me, I don't want to say most of the week, but there's a good many hours in that. So I think I'll finish this up, and then I think I'll put it away again and get it out again in maybe a month or so, because I have a house sitting gig for one of my friends, and I think this would be good to take along for that, because the cat that she has at her house loves to sit on my lap when I go to cat sit. And so this is actually a much better project to take with me while Lucy sits on my lap. If I take a full quilt with me, which I might do that also, she just wants to lay on the quilt, and it's like a weight on the quilt that's just dragging it down all the time, and I can't move my hoop. It's just harder, when you have a cat that just wants to sit on your lap. But this is very doable. So that's not coming up for a little while. So I might take another one of these panels with me and work on it there while Lucy sits on my lap. So that's very nice. Okay, so let's talk pinwheels now. I've said before, and I've shared in previous videos, that I'm going to make a pinwheel quilt, and I need several hundred pinwheels. And I use these papers to make all of my half square triangles for the pinwheels. And all of this, everything in this stack here is now sewn to the papers. You can see here, you sew it right to the paper. So this stack needs to be trimmed and cut and pressed. So I didn't get that far yet, but I had a bigger stack, which I think I've shared in last week's video, and I trimmed all of those, and I cut them apart, and I snipped the dog ears off, and I took the papers off. And that's what is in this box here. I don't want them to spill because they're all organized. So everything in this box now is ready for me to take to my sewing machine and sew together some pinwheels. And then in this box are the pinwheels that I have finished. There are 48 in here so far. So they're going to finish at 4 inches. And for those of you interested on looking at the backs, this is what the back of mine looks like. I do spin my seams on the back, and that way when I join all of these together, all of my seams will nest together and everything will lay flatter. And my goal for this one was to use bright colors. I think pinwheels are happy little blocks, and so I wanted them to be bright, happy little blocks. So that's my goal with this, and I don't know how many are in here, but it's not enough. I usually, when I have a project like this that takes several hundred, I usually jump right in and just sew and sew and sew. And then when I get within range, I think, of what my goal is, then I will go and count these, how many finished ones I have, and I will put them in piles. And then I'll see how many more I need. And the other thing with these too, I wanted to share, the pattern I'm making is basically assembled in 4 quadrants, and each quarter section is the same. So I just have to make that one section 4 times, and then it gets like a sashing piece down the center, both ways, both vertically and horizontally. But because the 4 sections are the same, when I'm making my pinwheels, if I have 4 that are the same, which I do here, what I'm going to do, I'm going to go through my piles here, and then I'm just going to lay them out into 4 piles. So I have 1 in this pile, 1 in this pile, 1 in this pile, and 1 in this pile. And I'm going to go through everything that I have made. Not all of these have 4 in the same color, but a lot of them do. Not all of them, but a lot of them do. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to make 4 different piles, and that way each quadrant will be more evenly distributed. If I didn't do that, I might end up getting like 2 or even 3 of these close together in the same quadrant. And that's just how I approach that. It doesn't always work out perfectly. For some reason, I have a great knack of trying really hard to keep things apart that are the same, and then they all come together anyway. The other thing I wanted to talk about with this is the papers that I used. Somebody had asked me in the comment section, well, they said that they were surprised that I actually buy these papers. And I didn't used to. When I first started doing this way back, I did buy a pack of papers, and then I would make copies from the original. I always kept a couple of originals set to the side, and then I would usually go to Staples and make some copies. The downside of that is because of the size of this, you can only fit 1 of these on a standard sheet of paper, the 8.5 by 11 inch paper. So it wasted paper, but in a way it wasn't wasted. I saved all of those cut off, pieces, the blank pieces, and then I used them as notepads or for, jotting down any information. So I do use the cutoffs of that. But the reason I don't do that anymore is because prices just kept going up and up and up and up and up to the point where it's a lot cheaper to buy the papers now, just to buy the papers, than it is to make copies. Unless you have access, to a copy machine somewhere that maybe you can make free copies at work. I don't know. I don't recommend that. But anyway, I did just look at Staples because it's probably been before COVID. It was probably the last time that I went to Staples to make copies. And that's the copy center that I have closest available to me. And I think it was, I want to say I remember it being about 17 cents a copy at that time. So if I need 100 of these, which is equal to 1 pack if you buy it, that's $17. Well, I just Googled it the other day just out of curiosity, how much does Staples charge to make a copy? And it varies according to location. There's like a slight variance. And it said on average, it's between 24 and 26 cents a copy. So even at the minimum, I'm paying $24 for a pack of 100 of these. And these that I just bought from Shabby Fabrics, I paid $12 for a pack of 100. So I could either pay $24 at Staples, or I can pay $12, by buying them online. That's a considerable difference, especially for the amount that I need and the amount that I use. So the last time I purchased these, I did get 4 packs of these. And I'm just wondering, I haven't done it yet, but I'm wondering if maybe I should buy a couple more before the prices go up on those too. It's still cheaper though than going through Staples. I haven't checked other copy centers because I don't have them in my area. Staples is what I have, so that's the only one I checked. So I just wanted to, throw that information out to you too. So I'm having fun with these. I'm really enjoying the fabrics, and I'm ready to sit down and make some more very soon, maybe this weekend. So let me walk you through how I make my pinwheels and how I think about certain things. Again, this is the paper that I use, and there are numbers on here that show you which direction you need to sew on. And then you cut these out on the solid lines, and then you'll have 8 triangles out of each paper. And 8 triangles will give you 2 pinwheels. So when I make a pinwheel, let's see, here's them. I think I do mine differently, or I think about mine differently, I think, than most people do. I think of mine as going clockwise. And if you look at this, I look at the darker fabric, and for me, I look at it as going clockwise. Again, that's just how I think about it in order to keep things straight and organized so nothing gets switched around. And when I make a pinwheel, I'm only looking at these 2 blocks here. That's it. This is basically your whole quilt. You just make these 2 blocks. If you want yours to go to spin the other way, which I think is what most people do, from the videos I've seen on YouTube, almost everybody makes theirs go the other way. So I'm the weirdo. But it just makes sense for my brain. I'm right-handed and I think about going in the direction of a clock. So this is how I make all mine. As long as you make all of yours the same way, it's fine. So this is what I'm starting with here. I start with a stack, and there should be 8, so I will pick off 4 of them. Let's see, are there 4? Okay, there are 4 here. So now I have that. So now I'm going to make this one go like this one, and I'm going to make this one go like this one. And that's your whole block. I'll show you. I take this and I'll flip it over here like a book, and I'm going to line up these edges here. And when I line them up, I'm also going to feel that these seams here are nesting, and you can feel that with your fingers. So I'm really going to pay attention also to this point down here, because this point here is equal to this point here. And so this is where you have everything coming together. So I'm going to try and make this point especially. You want all your points to come out beautifully, but that I know that this point down here is the part that is going to be in the center. And I know when people look at somebody else's pinwheels, that's the part they look at. So I'll sew 2 of these together, and then I'll get my next 2, and I'll do them exactly the same. I don't ever switch these. I don't ever turn them. So there's another pair. I'll put them together and line them up as perfectly as I possibly can, and feel down here that those seams are nesting. And you shouldn't have much trouble with these matching up if you use these papers. Every once in a while, I have some that don't come out as nice, but it's not because of the papers. That's just because of my own human error, where I maybe didn't cut it exactly on the line, and I mean exactly. If I'm off by a thread or so, that doesn't bother me. I can fix that. I mean, I can compensate for that. So now I'm going to open both of these up so that, again, they look the same. Actually, that looks the same. And now I'm going to, usually I just finger press this part. I'll run my finger along that seam, and then I do what Eleanor Burns always did. Here where you have these seams together, she always says, you have to smush it down. And it really works. I don't know why, but it does. And so I'll finger press this and smush it down. And then I'll take the bottom one and flip it around. And now I have my pinwheel. And then I'll bring these around, and now my seams will nest, because now this one, the seam is going this way, and this one, that seam is going that way. And when I feed this into my machine, I want to feed it in where the seam is going into my machine. So I do put a pin in here. I match that up as best I can along the top, and I'll put a pin in. I do peel this back often. I oftentimes will peel this back to see the seams and make sure that they're matching. And I will put a pin in there. And then I'm going to try and match these up along the top edge the best I can so that they are perfect. Having said that, I don't think I've ever had anything ever that is precisely perfect. And then the other thing I look at too is down here, because again, these seams here at the bottom, when you peel them back, they should match on both of them. I can feel it with my fingers. So now I have the top lined up, and I have these corners down here that are locked in also. And then I'll feed this one through. And again, remember, you want this seam to be facing in, and the bottom one is facing to you. And then pull your pin out. And then if you go like this, if you push this side away from you and push this side towards you, it breaks this open a little bit here, and that's what you want, so that you can spin your seams then. And I'll show you what I mean. So there's my center. It's not exactly perfect, but it's pretty darn good. So now spinning the seams, when I take this to the ironing board, you can see this one and this one are going in opposite directions already. And so this is going this way, so that means this has to come towards me. And then that, again, is spinning in a circle, and that means this one goes up. And then when I'm at the iron, I will press this center part down really, really well. So now this seam, this seam, this seam, this seam, they're basically going in a circle. And then this should give you, it should look like a little pinwheel in the center here. And then you know you've got it right. And that way it just distributes the bulk of everything. So you don't have that belly button effect there. So that's it. And then your corners too, you should have your color come out like right to the edge of your corners here. So when you connect these then these will come together nicely also. And then the other main project I have going on in my sewing room right now is this pattern that I'm using for my vintage fabrics. I have a box of vintage fabrics that I've had for years and years, and I know they're there, and I always think one day, you know, one day. And then other things kind of always jump in line. And so this was the year that I decided to get out some vintage fabrics and make a quilt out of them. And so I'll show you some of the blocks. I have 42 of these made now this week. And I don't have anything else cut out right now, so I don't know what kind of progress I'll have for next week. But I'll show you a few that I have. I have some of these pretty blues. They're pretty easy to make, and they come together pretty quickly. I really enjoy working with these too. This is the only one in here too. I'm not positive if this is actually a vintage fabric or not, but the look of it, I thought it looked vintage. And so for me, that's good enough. It'll fit in with this quilt here. And then some reds. And most of these also, I do have multiples of these. And then here are a few greens. And this one is a gray. And if I were making a quilt that was just half square triangles, I would not have used this print, because this print is a large scale print. And once you cut it up really small, you lose the design of that print. But because this block has a large triangle in it, you can still see that print. And then the smaller ones around it will echo that. So it's not like you're just seeing these small triangles. You also get to see the bigger scale of that too. But that's just something to keep in mind too, the scale of the fabrics that you're using. And this one is really pretty. This feels like, I mean, it could just be like dress fabric of the time, but it has the feel and the coarseness of a feed sack, but that doesn't mean that it is. And then this one, I debated about this one because it has a white background on it, but I decided to go with it because I did like the print of that. And I think with everything else I have going on in here, it'll be fine. And then I have the yellows also. So I'm going to lay a few of these out just to see what they look like together, and we'll all take a look at it. So I just chose 9 of them just to lay out and see what they look like. And I like to take a picture with my phone too. You get a different perspective looking through it with your phone. I'm really happy with how they look together. When I do the final layout of this, I'm going to set these on point though. I'm not going to set them straight together like this. I'm not going to put an alternate block between them though. I don't have enough made yet to do the math and figure out how many I will need eventually. But the other thing I like about this pattern too is that it almost gives the illusion of sashing. You have long rows running with half square triangles this way and this way also. And I like the way that that looks a lot. I think those small triangles around the outside are really nice because it gives a nice detail to it. It offsets this larger block really nicely. And these two prints, they must have been made, maybe the same manufacturer, maybe not, but they're the same blue. The background is the same blue, and the print is very similar, but this one is much more open, and this one is much more densely printed with the flowers on it. But I really like these a lot. I still have some fabrics in my box that are different than these that I haven't cut up yet. So this will be on my list to work on this week, is to at least get to the point where I have things cut and ready to be sewn up. So that's my other big project for this week. And as you can see, the quilt hanging behind me, I do have a finish this week. And truth be told, I slept under this quilt a couple of nights already because it got a little chilly and I just wanted to throw an extra quilt on the bed. So yeah, this one's done. I'm super excited about it. And so we'll take it off the door and lay it on the floor and take a look at it. Okay, I finished this one with the hand quilting. This went pretty smooth, pretty easy, and I just did a crosshatch pattern through all of the squares. Every single square has an X through it with hand quilting. This turned out a lot nicer than I thought it would as I was making the blocks. I wasn't really quite sure what the end product was going to look like, but I'm really pleased with it. And the little scallops around the outside, in the previous videos I've showed you how I've made that and how I attached them. And as I came around at the edges when I got ready to quilt this border here, I just went around and loosely sewed them down so they don't come up at all. They are attached to that now. It's not as closely sewn as I would do if I were doing like a proper applique, but you really only need, they're not that big, and so you didn't really need like a lot. And the back of these little scallops is also finished, so even if perchance 50 years from now, even if the stitching along those would come out, it really isn't going to make a big difference because each one of these has a backing on it as well. So, but this stitching is going to hold just fine for many, many, many years. And it's funny how that one little detail around the outside, in my mind, it makes such a big difference on this quilt. I think it really changed the whole feel of the quilt by putting that on. And that was the first time that I've tried doing that. And I'm really pleased with it, with how it came out. So I think I'll be doing that again. And then after I got done with the entire quilt and I put the binding on and the binding was done, I decided, you know what it needs? It needs a little decorative stitching around the outside that runs right along by the binding. And so I did that then. The machine, my main machine that I use, is only a straight stitch machine, but I also have an older machine that is, it's a Janome, and most machines these days do come with some decorative stitching. And I thought, well, you know, we have these machines with all of these gorgeous little stitches, so why not use them from time to time? And I really like it because it also gives, you know, it is a machine stitching and it's more dense than hand stitching is. So I feel like it gives a little bit more strength here right around the outside border of the quilt, you know, right up against that edge. So I used a light lavender, which also made me feel good because I have a lot of threads of different colors. You know, most of them have been gifted to me, and I've been trying to use more of the colored threads even when I do hand quilting. And so I'm just trying to remember to use some of these things that I have in my stash that they're not always in the forefront of my mind. So so anyway, I was glad to be able to use that, and I really like how it looks. And now the back of this quilt is, this was a sheet that was given to me. And of course it wasn't wide enough. They hardly ever are. And so I put together this checkerboard, and most of the checkerboard that's in here is also fabric that is in the quilt top. Some of it usually at this very end and then at the other very end, that's stuff that I had to get out of my stash. But most of this in here is just leftover pieces from what I used on the front. And so, yeah, it looks like I meant for that to happen. But yeah, so that was just good that that didn't just end up in a drawer somewhere too. And it fits perfectly, of course, with this quilt. All right, that'll just about finish it up for me this week. Before we go, I just wanted to let everybody know what I'm actually working on now for hand quilting, since this one is finished behind me. I picked up the green and white checkerboard quilt, so that's been my main focus this week with hand quilting, and I'm making really good progress on it. And then I hit a point where I created more work for myself. I don't regret it though. I'll share that with you next week, because right now it's just in a frame in a pile downstairs. But I decided to put some embroidery on it. I thought beforehand, I didn't put any on prior, because I thought I was just going to make that for charity. But once I decided to keep it for myself, I decided it needed some embroidery on it in certain places, and so I took the time to do that, and I'll share that with you next week. But anyway, thank you so much, everybody, for joining me again. I really appreciate it, and I love reading all of your comments here. So until next week, happy quilting, everybody. Bye.